All right, Ohio political news here tonight is, hey, we're going to do some election night results and data and find out who wins the big kahuna, who wins everything tonight, okay? So we're looking forward to it. But, you know, this is an unusual election because this isn't like, you know, we don't have the presidency on board. We don't have a lot of these real big names. Most of it is local issues. Most of it is tax levies, school board issues, things like that. Matter of fact, there are no statewide ballots or measures for today. But we do have mayors, city council races, school board races. We have a lot of school levies. So we'll keep an eye on some of that stuff. We have a lot of tax renewals. We keep an eye on that. But that's, as we've been saying here all along, you vote no on any of those tax issues. I mean, I was looking at some of the numbers in some of the counties, and it was frightening how much their taxes are going to be increased. So we'll do Jonathan here tonight with the election coverage. Good to see you.
Yep.
All
We're
right.
going to
Timothy
do
Shea
our
is
best
with
to
us,
find
too.
them all.
Timothy's out in New York, and it's good to see you, Timothy. So thanks for joining us here tonight. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Then we got the commish with us here, and he's got the laptop. So we're going to be, we're all going to have to work together on this. I know that we don't have anything yet. We don't have any kind of results yet that I'm aware of. And if you guys are aware of something, let me know, okay? Also, what we're doing is the chat is open. Ken will be monitoring the chat, and you know, if you have a question about a race or anything, please type it in the chat. We'll answer it. We'll talk with you. We want to bring anybody who wants to be a part of the show into the show. That's
Joe,
what we want to do here tonight. Yeah,
we have some breaking news. Some of the first numbers are in the Virginia gubernatorial election. It looks as though Abigail Spanberger, as anticipated, is leading by a considerable amount. The first results with 20% in show 58 to 42, roughly 58 to 42%. So the Democrat out to an early lead. That's not surprising. Nationally, we have three races, all in deep blue territory, that are being watched. We've got the Virginia governor's race, the New Jersey governor's race, and of course the New York City mayoral race, where everyone in the big NYC is getting ready for communism and socialism with Zohran Mamdani. Once again, the only news that we would see tonight from those national races is if a Republican pulled an upset, because no one is expecting a Republican to win in New Jersey, New York City, or in what has become a deep blue Virginia, thanks to the shift in Northern Virginia. But we'll keep watching. First result with 17% in, we've got about 56 to 43.5% Democrat in the lead. No surprises there.
So the Democrats, all right, let's talk about this for a minute, since I don't think a lot of people are as familiar with it as you are, and since it's not Ohio politics, I'm not as familiar with it either. But you're saying that, in New Jersey there, that's a governor's race. The Democrat is supposed to take it, and that's the same with Virginia as well, correct?
Correct. I mean, it's no surprise to anyone that New Jersey is a Democrat state, and Virginia has trended Democrat for the last decade or so. So once again, the only surprise we have is that there was a Republican upset.
That's too bad, because I thought the Republicans had a good chance at grabbing one of those races. We'll see. And then, of course, in New York, you have that mayoral race with how do you pronounce his name? The socialist guy.
Mamdani, I think.
Mamdani.
Zohran Mamdani. And let me give you a little inside baseball on this. The big myth is that he's a commie, he's a socialist, he's a Democrat socialist. He's not. He's a Muslim. And what he's doing is taqiyya. He's lying to advance the cause of Islam, and he's putting out all these socialist talking points to idiots that have no idea what socialism is. They think it means being social or using social media. They can't even describe a policy that they approve of that's socialist, and yet they're all about it because they're going to get one fat black woman said, "I'm going to go with the guy that going to give me the Lamborghini."
Yeah, whoever's going to give him the
That's all
most freebies, right?
He's preaching free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a family-friendly show, so I'll keep it to free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're buying it. And you've got idiot white leftist middle-aged women that are literally voting to be raped and murdered. That's what they're voting for. New York City is going to be a hellhole, and I love the city. I lived there twice. I wanted to retire there. I won't even go visit now. And my attitude is, let them burn it down. Let 1 million people leave. They're talking about 1 million New Yorkers leaving the city if he wins.
If he wins
Even
that
if it's
race.
half that much, Joe, that's going to cripple the city's economy.
Oh, yeah, but where are they going to go? I mean, people are just going to pack up and leave? I mean,
Pack up and move where they've been going. The exodus out of New York for Florida and Texas and Tennessee and North Carolina has been incredible.
All right, so since you're really well versed in all of this, just give us a little bit of insight into this Mamdani guy. Now, I know he's a socialist or a communist, but a lot of people don't even know what that means. So what is, and he's predicted to win. It's not even supposed to be close. If he gets elected, what do you see happening, Tim?
Oh, it's basically going to be a soft roll out of a caliphate. He's going to appoint all Muslims. He's going to defund the police. He's going to appoint Muslim police commissioner, and it's going to be a caliphate right here in New York. Look at Dearbornistan and Minneapolis-stan if you want to see what New York City is going to become.
But does a mayor have that kind of power? That would
Yeah.
be another question, I would say.
Yeah.
Does he have that kind of power to just, you're saying he's going to just elect Muslims? He's going to defund the police.
He's going to appoint them.
All right, he's going to appoint. He's
All
going to
his
appoint
mayoral
Muslims.
appointees.
He's going to defund the police. I mean, does he really have that kind of power? Who's the governor of New York?
Well, Kathy Hochul, whose biggest accomplishment is getting a $1.4 billion stadium for the Buffalo Bills that doesn't even have a roof on it, so it can't host a Super Bowl, can't host concerts, can't do anything in the winter to earn back some of its expenses. She just took care of her billionaire buddies. And she's the only one that can stop Mamdani by using the state budget power. And also, our state constitution allows the governor march-in rights if the city is being mismanaged. And to pin your hopes on Kathy Hochul is the Wicked Witch of the Northeast, with her twin sister, Gretchen Whitmer, the Wicked Witch of the Midwest. You're in tough straits if you're pinning your hopes on Kathy Hochul.
Yeah. All right, well, so let's look at Polymarket here for a minute. So, Mamdani, according to the betting market, he's got a 95% chance of winning over Andrew Cuomo. And who the heck wants Cuomo in there anyhow?
Somebody did place a $200,000 bet today on Cuomo. So maybe the mob knows something that we don't.
Well, I'll say this. You're asking who wants him. I'm not sure that anyone does, but I think a lot of folks view him as the lesser of two evils. President Trump himself said, if I lived in New York, what choice would I have? I'd have to vote for Cuomo because he's the only one with a realistic chance, if you can even call a 5% shot realistic, of beating Mamdani. But ultimately, Polymarket, the polls, there's large agreement that Mamdani is going to win, and New York is going to have to deal with those consequences. Let's talk just a little bit about what we have to look forward to in Ohio for Ohio political news. We're going to be monitoring the various school levies across the state. It's been reported that there are over 100 school levies on the ballot, both renewals and new levies. There's 100 school levies being decided tonight, with the movement to abolish property taxes front and center in Ohio politics. There's no question that those levies are going to be watched very closely by people on both sides. We also have a lot of municipal and local races. In Northeast Ohio, we obviously have the race between Justin Bibb and Laverne Gore. Miss Gore has been a guest on this show. Justin Bibb, the mayor, the heavy favorite to win that race. In Lake County, where I serve as commissioner, Our biggest city has multiple council races and school board races up for grabs. Some very controversial, very hard fought campaigns in Mentor. People are going to be watching those closely, from Ray Kirchner versus Scott Marn to Team ISO versus the Democrats in the school board race. And of course, in Eastlake, we have an open seat for mayor. That hasn't happened for some time, with Kevin Kostelnik versus Laura DePledge in what looks to be a very close race. So we've got a lot of interesting races in Northeast Ohio and across the state.
Yeah, without a doubt, we do. And speaking of some of those levies and stuff, I'm in Cuyahoga County, so I'm going to look at some of the school levies here for the Garfield Heights. Now, Garfield Heights is putting this massive school levy on. They're calling it a renewal and emergency. It's 9.6 mils. That is a lot. It's for 10 years. So I was looking at it would raise their tax. Their property taxes, $337 a year per $100,000 house. So if you got a $300,000 house, you got to triple that. It's well over $1,000 added to their property tax. This is why we've been preaching this on this show over and over. You don't approve any more tax levies. You're killing yourself. So that's a big one. Parma's also got another one. This has failed, I think, 6 or 7 times in a row. And so now that all the teachers union does is just keeps hitting you over the head. But Parma City School District, it's about 7 mils. And that would be $242 added to you per $100,000 house. Again, if you got a $300,000 house, that's $600-$700 more per year. Richmond Heights, 7.5 mils. And that's $263 per $100,000 home. Shaker Heights, I can't believe Shaker Heights is throwing another school levy on. It's like the highest, I think, in the state. They're right next to Cleveland Heights out here. But Shaker Heights, basically 10 mils, 9.9. That's going to add, and Shaker's got some very expensive homes. And with the reappraisal, they're all $300,000-$400,000. So that's going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,200 more property taxes.
300,000 or 400,000. When's the last time you visited Shaker, dude?
There's some that are $1 million. There's some that are $1 million.
One sold about 20 years ago for $1.7 million. I knew the family that lived in that house.
Yeah. Shaker's got some beautiful homes. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you're probably talking 500,000 for most of those houses. So
I would say the average in Shaker is probably closer to 7.5.
That's crazy. All right, so take that 7 and multiply it by $240. I mean, that's a heck of an increase. How do the people afford it, and why do they vote for it? That's another question.
Well, it's become habit. I mean, you have generation after generation after generation. It's just sort of beat into their heads. And I mean, if you're like me and you're watching things like the Walk Away, I love Walk Away, and these people that tell the stories about how they've finally left, they've seen the light finally went on, and they've left the Democrat Party. In particular, you find a lot of Black America has just, they'll come out on these Walk Away videos and say, I never really questioned it because I was brought up that way. Just I was told by my parents and cousins and grandparents and community that you're Black, just like Biden said. If you ain't voting Biden, you ain't Black. That whole thing has been like immersed in society. In the same way, there are places like Shaker Heights that pride themselves on always passing the budget. It doesn't matter what's going on. And in a minute, I'll look it up. I'm actually in the process now. You mentioned Garfield Heights. I'm starting to look up Garfield Heights numbers. I see so far about $22,000 per year per pupil for Garfield Heights. I'm going to do a little bit more digging on that one. But actually, before we move too far away from Mamdani, you mentioned the Zohran Mamdani race for governor of New York. And I'm there also. I spent a lot of time in my 20s in New York, 20s and 30s in New York City. but I haven't been back. I haven't even stepped foot inside of New York State for probably 10 years since they changed a whole bunch of laws that drive me absolutely bonkers. But so that's hitting me pretty hard. I love New York. A part of my heart will always be there. But here's something also, Polymarket. You brought up Polymarket. Here's a tweet from Polymarket that was retweeted by Elon Musk. Breaking, Zoran Mondani listed twice on the ballot for today's New York City mayoral race. So Mondani was listed twice on the ballot, and apparently in the lower right-hand corner, you can find Cuomo's name. I mean,
I got to break in here for a second, guys.
How
This
crooked
is
is that?
I got to break in here for a second. This is a complete non-issue that was brought up as clickbait on X. Elon didn't understand our ballot, and he retweeted this thing. It's all garbage. What we do is we list candidates by party. So if you're on more than one party's ticket, for example, today, as a protest, I don't vote on the Republican ticket. I vote on the conservative ticket. It's the same person, and the vote goes to that person, but it goes on the conservative party line and not on the Republican party line. So his name didn't appear twice. If he'd been endorsed by three parties, it would have been three times. Curtis Sliwa's name was also twice because Curtis was on the Republican ticket and the conservative party ticket. Okay? Now, the bigger issue here is that Curtis and Cuomo should have gotten together and ran as mayor, and with the agreement that Sliwa would be deputy mayor. They should have pooled their forces. So the big issue to look at tonight is you take Sliwa's votes, add them to Cuomo's votes, and see if they're more than Mamdani's votes.
Yeah, that's a good point. And thank you for that clarification. That's something I actually didn't know.
Yeah.
All right, so
It's
Joe,
just the way our ballots are in the state. Yeah.
That seems strange to me, but then again, Ohio.
Well, let me ask Tim a quick question. Quick question on that. You guys have a party that's called the Conservative Party?
Oh yeah, I'm a registered conservative. In fact, James M. Buckley, Bill Buckley's brother, is the last person to win a statewide race as a third-party candidate. He was only on the conservative ticket. He beat both the Republican and the Democrat in the general for U.S. Senate back in, I think it was 1968, 1970, and through there.
So you have a party. That's interesting. So you have a conservative party. So you have a Republican, Democrat. You have independents, right? And
right.
then you have another party.
No, there's no independent party here. If you're independent, it means you just can't vote in any primary. So if you're a registered conservative, you vote in the conservative primary. If you're a Democrat, you vote in the Democratic primary.
And if you're a Republican, you still have a Republican, right?
Yeah, you got Republican. Yeah. You vote in the Republican Party.
So how would you differentiate Republican and conservative? I'm serious. How would you do that?
How long you got? Let me just put it this way. New York is home to the Rockefeller wing of the Republican Party. All the Republicans we all hate, the ones we mistakenly call rhinos because they're not Republicans in name only. They're honest to goodness Republicans. That's what a Republican is. The country club, Chamber of Commerce, all that nonsense. You know, John McCain and Mitt Romney and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski.
Yeah, but you wouldn't call them Republicans.
They're actual Republicans.
Yeah. They are
the ones we love, like Jim Jordan and Warren Davidson and all those great Ohio Republicans. They're really conservatives.
Okay. So that's how you differentiate. That's interesting. But it seems like you're splitting the vote an awful lot.
Because the vote goes to the person, but the ballot is cast by party. So you can vote for somebody under Party A or under Party B. So I always vote under the Conservative Party to throw a shot across the bow of the GOP.
Yeah, that is interesting. Let's go back to John Pleshnik for a minute. John, are we able to get any kind of numbers yet, or is it too early?
So it doesn't look like there are any local numbers yet, but monitoring the national races, there's been a little update in the Virginia race, 31% in, 54.6% for Democrat Abigail Spanberger, 45.1% for Winsome Earl Sears. So once again, looks like Blue Virginia is staying blue, but only 31% in so far. unfortunately, CBS News says this is enough, and they've already called it for Spanberger. So you might say first win of the night goes to the D's.
Wow. So they're calling
Yeah, and
the
our
election
polls
already.
close in 3 minutes, so
Wow. So-
New Jersey and New York close in 3 minutes at 8 o'clock. So we'll get some numbers in a few minutes.
All right. Yeah, that's kind of good for the national. And then as far as local stuff here, these boards of elections, I'm looking at Cuyahoga here, but I don't see anything yet.
Well, polls close in Ohio at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So they closed almost half an hour ago. In my experience, the earliest you see the absentees or any results posted is half an hour later. So I anticipate we're going to see some early results in the next few minutes. But I'm not surprised we haven't seen anything yet. The night is young in Ohio.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, it is going to be a little challenging tonight as we're going to try to cover some of the more important races and stuff. Now, for the mayoral races in Ohio, Cincinnati mayor, that's a big one, the Cleveland mayor, although Justin Bibb is probably going to take that one. I mean, a lot of these don't really have a lot of competition. Toledo mayor is up for grabs. We have Cincinnati City Council, Cleveland City Council. All of those seats are up. School board elections, levies, that whole thing. All your smaller cities, like I'm in Cleveland Heights. We have a mayoral race here in Cleveland Heights. You have one almost all over the place. The mayor races. That's what a big thing is. And a lot of school levies, operating levies, are on the ballot tonight as well. So. Out there in Lake County where you're at, let me ask you something real quick there, John. The Wickliffe City School District, so they have, it's not a bond and it's not a tax levy. What they're doing is, this is something that earned your tax. This is going to be a state, or a city tax, and they want to what? Increase it by 1%? Is that what that is?
So to be clear, Wickliffe Public Schools is trying to pass a 1% earned income tax, which doesn't apply to retirement income, doesn't apply to people working in Wickliffe, live elsewhere. It only applies to the income of residents other than retirement income. And that would effectively take Wickliffe's income tax rate of 2% imposed by the city up to 3%, or the highest in Lake County. I think that a lot of school districts are attempting to pass income taxes as they see voters recoil against the higher and higher property taxes. I think that's the case in Wickliffe, where they attempted a large property tax levy in the last election. It was voted down 2-1, overwhelmingly failed. And so they came back with an income tax rather than a property tax. It's hard to say because this is the first time Wickliffe's ever tried this, but my prediction is that it fails. I think Wickliffe taxpayers are tired of paying over $30,000 a student and being the highest property taxed for their schools in Lake County. I think that what voters want to see from Wickliffe Public Schools is more and better services for less money. I don't think they're interested in paying more. I think they're interested in greater efficiencies.
Yep, I would agree with you on that. I mean, we preach that all the time on this show about these tax increases, these levies, which are just crazy. I'm looking at Franklin County now, so I thought I would highlight a few of them. Let's see, Riverly, Village of Riverly. They've got 4.5 mills. That's $158 per $100,000. Let's see another one. Blendon Township. This is a township. 4.48 mils. Police protection. It's going to cost you another $157. Multiply that by 3. Franklin Township. So these townships are really going to town. Here's a fire protection. 6.89 mils. That's $137. Mifflin Township, and that is 5.5 mils for police protection, another $195 per $100,000 home. So I mean, this stuff is, we preach this a lot. Let me just get your thoughts on that, because that's what this whole election is about tonight. So much of it is tax levies, bond issues, fire, police, parks, recreation. Everybody needs money. But the citizens are getting tapped out over this stuff.
I think the citizens are well past tapped out. That's the problem that the folks in Columbus and most politicians don't seem to understand. Local voters do insist on essential services. They absolutely demand roads, police, fire. They love their parks, they love their libraries, they love their schools, and they're not willing to give them up. At the same time, they're not willing to pay more and more and more in taxes, especially in property taxes. And people try to point that out as an unresolved issue or some kind of hypocrisy. Well, you want the services, but you don't want to pay for them. But that's not really true. We already pay state sales and state income tax, which were designed to cover these services. It's just, as the years have gone on, Columbus has kept more and more of the money, and they've pushed that off on localities. Governor Kasich was perhaps the most famous for balancing his budget on the backs of local government. But it's been a problem for decades and decades. And the reality is, government needs to understand people aren't asking for less services, and they're not asking for more taxes. They're in fact demanding more and better services for less money. And given the drastic inefficiency in government, it's not an unreasonable demand. We can doge the heck out of Ohio for years, and there'd still be a lot of low-hanging fruit and fat to cut. So the reality is, Democrats and liberals like to talk about the new normal. Well, I think we need to start talking about the new normal for government, where we are going to be demanding more and better services. You're going to have to give me a better product, better schools, better results, better roads for half the cost. And if you can't do it, we have something called elections. I'm pretty sure that other guy running for Congress, state senate, or mayor is going to say, I could give that a shot. We need to start holding folks to account.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never too late to start doing that. We got to hold them to accountability there. I want to get Marcel. I can see that you're in the Zoom room. I'm going to get you on right now. So let's talk a little bit, because I know you're running for Secretary of State. And thanks a lot for hopping in here. You had something out on X and Facebook, I believe, about some problems with the elections here in Ohio. Can you fill us in?
That's a really vague introduction there, Joe. I did post some information today that came to me from some poll workers in Strongsville and Cuyahoga County, and even something the other night. First, I noticed now the Secretary of State provides this data dashboard on the amount of absentee ballots that are outstanding. And it was very interesting because Cuyahoga is no longer the most populous county with the most registered voters. It's actually Franklin County. That happened just in the last couple of years. But with the amount of absentee ballots which were requested, I mean, it blew out Franklin County this cycle by about 3 times the amount. 60,000, in fact, were requested in Cuyahoga. Absentee ballots, of course, have to be requested by individuals personally, and it goes to a given address. Now, somebody can spoof the system to request those kind of things if they have a person's information that's required to do that. So we don't know if that's the case, but we do know that there was up to 17,000 of them that never got returned by the time of Election Day. And so that pales, Franklin County had less than 5,000, right? So something's going on in terms of high asking in Cuyahoga and high unreturned rates this cycle, and to the point where it's quite an anomaly.
Okay, wait 1 second. So let's make sure we all understand this. So what you're saying is that a lot of ballots were sent out in Cuyahoga County, but they were never returned? Is that what you're saying, or are you saying?
Right. And so anytime you request an absentee ballot, it's tracked at the Secretary of State's office. And what happens over the course of the 29 days or so early voting in Ohio is that every single day, these groups from the Secretary of State to the, let's say, campaigns and elected officials who are running, they're tracking that, right? In many cases, we've created this chase the ballot approach now to elections because we have such a long election cycle here in Ohio. So it's in everybody's interest to ensure they know who has what outstanding absentee ballots and to try to petition those people to return those ballots. All I'm simply pointing out is Cuyahoga had 3 times the amount of asks than Franklin County or any other county, and they had practically over 3 times the amount of unreturned ballots as well this cycle. That's very odd to me, and I don't know if we have, we can look into that prior cycles, but what does that suggest or indicate? Now, what I can tell you happened in some races in urban counties in Ohio just a few years ago. We had a candidate that was running for commissioner who won on election night by 1,000 votes and was told by the Board of Election that they won in Montgomery County, where Dayton is. And then just a few days later, they said they had 9,000 more ballots that came in after the election date. And based on the way the law is written in Ohio, as long as it's postmarked before the election, they give deference to the ballots that come in afterward. Now, the Republicans are trying to apparently change this because President Trump put an executive order out in March that said essentially cut it off on the date prior to the election. No more receipt of ballots outside of overseas and military. So that would mean anybody within continental United States that's trying to vote like that. But the Republicans have yet to pass that kind of legislation. And so it creates these circumstances, especially in these urban counties where there's going to be more ballots because just naturally the voting population. And I think that's just something interesting. But that's not the main post from today. That was the post from yesterday. But if you want to talk about the machines, we can talk about the machines.
Yeah, let's. Definitely. Yeah, we definitely want to talk about voting machines. But I want to commend you about something. You're actually like a hawk. You're looking at the information that's coming through the voting. Early ballots and what's been actually voted and what hasn't, and people not returning it and everything. And that's what a good Secretary of State would do. They would analyze the data and see if there's any problems with it. So I think that's really great. But now you noticed something wrong with a voting machine in Cuyahoga County, right?
Yeah. So a poll worker was passing some information on to me today, which was very unusual. And I simply pointed out and asked a question on X, right? And that post has since gone viral. I basically said, somebody explain to me why a vote scanning machine here in Strongsville, Ohio, in Cuyahoga, has this following display, something to the effect of, was unable to connect to the web page. Well, most people associate web page with browsers. Web-based browsers and web-based browsers imply, in certain instances, the internet. And I wanted people to try to prove or disprove. That was really the point of my question. Because I know, and we have been pursuing for the last 2 years, the level of transparency that we should know and have an understanding of the configuration of these voting systems. In fact, we should be having third-party review.
Joe, I hate to interrupt, but we do have some breaking news from Lake County. So we do have the results from the absentee ballots and early vote. And as you noted, the only new levy of any real significance in Lake County was the Wickliffe School District proposed income tax. This is just the absentees and the early vote, but it shows 54.89% against, 45.11% for. So that's a pretty substantial margin against in that vote, particularly given that absentees tend to trend more Democratic than Republican in Lake County and frankly in most Ohio counties. So the odds are pretty good that levy is on its way to defeat. The other major new levy, if you want to call it that, is Leroy's proposed levy for their fire department. And that is almost 50-50, 116 to 113 votes, less than 1% difference. So the two new levies in Lake County, you see the Wickliffe income tax going down pretty badly in the absentees by about 9%. And a virtual tie for the Leroy levy. We've got some interesting results, too, in the local races. In the open race for Eastlake mayor, 1 vote separates the two candidates. 295 votes for Laura DePledge and 294 votes for Kevin Kostelnik in the early vote. This one is obviously way too close to call. We're going to be watching that all night. But everyone who said that was going to be close, they were right. I still think Kostelnik wins this one. Full disclosure, I endorsed Kevin Kostelnik. But my goodness, we're within 1 vote in the early vote. In Eastlake City Council, the top 3 candidates in the early vote are James Overstreet, Angela Schmidt, and Michael Semick, with the next closest being Chris Craniak. But obviously, this is just the early vote. There's not enough in yet to say who's going to take the top 3 positions and return to city council. But right now, Jim Overstreet, Angela Schmidt, and Michael Semick are leading, with Chris Craniak right behind. If we take a look at the big races in Mentor, no surprise, Janet Dowling is defeating Jamie Altizer in the early vote by, it looks like 17%. I don't think that's going to be a close race. I think we can pretty much call that for Councilwoman Janet Dowling. But the race that everyone's interested in is Ray Kirchner versus Scott Marn, the 2 longest serving members of Mentor City Council. There's been some controversy surrounding Scott Marn. I won't go into that today. Over the last year, Ray Kirchner made the choice to actually leave his seat and run against Scott Marn. He felt so strongly that Councilman Marn should no longer be on Mentor Council. And the 2 of them have been in a grudge match. The last couple of ads and mailers have been pretty tough. This has been a classic, beat 'em up, fight 'em up campaign. But Ray Kirchner is leading the absentee vote 76.11% to 23.89%. It would take a small miracle for Scott Marn to reverse that trend in the day of election vote. I think Ray Kirchner has pretty clearly won this election. Looking to the other city council race, 3 of 3, Brian Cook, the Democrat, is leading Republican Andy Payne and Democrat Barry Sneed, 54.83% of the vote to Mr. Cook, 37.95% to Miss Payne, and 7.21% to Sneed. But this is still early enough in a 3-way race that I don't know that we can call it. But it's surprising to see Andy Payne down that much. I think that Cook's got to be feeling good right now, but it is by no means over, given that we only have the absentees and early vote in front of us. And Democrats do tend to perform better in the absentee than on election day. So the only other major race I'll cite is in Wickliffe. My good friend Joe Sakis is cruising to re-election with 61% to 39% of the absentee vote. I think we can put a fork in Borsig. I think this race is done. I think Mayor Sakis is going to get his second term. So a lot of excitement in Lake County, Ohio, and if it's reflective of the broader state, it looks like renewal levies are passing, new levies are failing.
All right, John, real quick here, because I got the Lake County. I know you can't share your screen, but I've got the Lake County. Is this what you're looking at, this kind of information right here?
Yes.
All right, let's just scan it for a minute here. So I know you just went through it, but let's go through it real fast again. So we have for the mayor of Eastlake, those are the 2 that you were just mentioning. Oh,
Kevin Kostelnik and Laura DePledge. Kevin is the former service director for the city. Laura DePledge is the former council president. So it's a real grudge match of almost incumbents. Everyone in Eastlake knows these 2. They have very well-established reputations. You either love them or you hate them, but you certainly know them. And so it's not surprising to me that we're seeing a super close race.
Yeah, look at that.
One vote separating the 2.
Vote. Just one vote separating at this point. There's still a long way to go, I'm sure. Here's your council members. Anybody on this council at large, Eastlake City, stand out that we should be, a good, strong, conservative type?
So I will tell you, I predicted that Jim Overstreet, I predicted that Angela Schmidt and Michael Semick were definitely going to be in the top 3. Jim Overstreet, I think, is doing extremely well to be the top vote getter at this point. I'm a little surprised Dave Spotten hasn't polled higher. But to give some context, Dave Spotten, Michael Semick, Angela Schmidt, Jim Overstreet, and Chris Craniak are either current or former members of council or mayors of Eastlake. So in a very real sense, we have 2 newbies, John Bowles and Carolyn Kinkoff, running against 5 incumbents for 3 seats. So this has been a tough race. In an ordinary year, a council person would probably just walk right in. But when you have 5 people who all have been mayor or councilman before, and 2 new folks, 7 people for 3 seats, it becomes a very tough race.
Right, right. There's still a long way to go. Not too many precincts have been counted. So there is. We can come back to this as Menor City. We'll get a few more. We'll come back to this as we get a few more votes in and everything like that. But we'll keep an eye on Lake County pretty well. We'll keep a close eye on Lake County. It's one of our favorite counties here. I'm gonna have to get the Cuyahoga County. I'm gonna have to come up with those numbers here in just a minute as well. So let me get back to Marcel. You're still with me, right?
I'm still with you.
All right. So you know it's election night. We're gonna have to cut in and out. But anyhow, so what was it about that voting machine then? You were saying it was connected to the internet, or possibly, right?
Yeah, I was just drawing a question because the system itself showed that it was unable to connect to what it claims is this web page, and I posted the actual images there. And these are new systems in Cuyahoga County. They just moved away from the ES&S and they went to a new scanner system, Clearcast. And what I wanted to do there is, because we're consistently told that the systems don't have a level of connectivity, they're voting machines, tabulars, they don't really differentiate. They kind of just cast a blanket out there and say nothing's connected. But the truth is, these systems do operate on local area networks, sometimes virtual private networks. They use cellular technology to connect to IP addresses. If they didn't, there wouldn't have been a reason for the Secretary of State to partner with the Department of Homeland Security and CISA to monitor election system networks. So we're not being told everything regarding the type of configurations of voting systems. And my whole point has been, as someone who has served in the Air Force 20 years and been alongside security professionals throughout that entire time, protected critical infrastructure, was if you really want people to believe you, then you need to show people the evidence of this and disprove any theory in the case. And it's very interesting if you see the degree of responses that people had. A lot of people put objective, intelligent responses saying, you know, this doesn't prove that it's connected to the internet. And I would agree, it doesn't prove it. But my issue here is it doesn't disprove a level of connectivity that brings a risk, because it's not just the internet connectivity to a voting system that is a risk. It goes back to the software development, the production, the supply chain, the fact that the quality assurance by the suppliers of those systems is not known to the customer, the client, which is who? The state of Ohio, the County Board of Elections. And they don't understand how their own systems work, but they'll defend them, aggressively, right? Mm-hmm. And it's almost like they defend them aggressively because their own personal identity is staked in it, when we just need to question things critically. And
no, I think it's a great idea that you're questioning stuff. So did somebody from Strongsville somebody took a picture of the machine, right? And they said,
well, they did when the machine malfunctioned. They were trying to reconcile the ballots and so forth that were processed. They were trying to push it through. I guess the machine was trying to access, it's probably a local host server. It has some kind of web browser applications that make it look like the error you get when you're trying to connect to the internet. And sometimes you get that error that you can't connect, right? Again, without us knowing what function it was supposed to perform, we can't say definitively one way or the other. But this just underscores the problem here, doesn't it? The election workers have no clue what happens when their system breaks down like that. And what happens in Ohio is they give it over to the vendor, and it's not in the vendor's interest. So what I'm pushing for is to say something about this. So what I'm pushing for in Ohio is every single polling location should have an incident reporting and tracking system. So if a machine or a problem unveils on the day of an election in use, that should be recorded for the time, the place, what machine it was. We should gather all of those instances and issues, and that should be investigated, right? We should do some pattern analysis.
Yeah, definitely.
And these are basic things that happen in the military for weapon systems, and other industries do this. But what we do is we turn it over to the vendors so we can make it go away. And the vendors are happy to make it go away because they don't want their product questioned. They want the product to always be in good light. So, we don't have a system of trust and verify when it comes to the network issues and software.
No, I think it's awesome that you're looking into all this, because you're probably the only one who is. I don't think our current Secretary of State is going to look into any of that kind of stuff. Brian, you made it with us tonight. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Except I was at the Board of Elections or at the precinct at 5:30 this morning, so it's been a long day.
Anything to report? Anything unusual, interesting? How was the turnout?
We had, I believe it was 730 total, voters turnout, which is not, I think in the general we had 1,500, so it was basically half.
Okay, half of what you normally have, huh?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's good. We were also talking here a few minutes ago about all of the levies and stuff like that. I'm just going to keep hopping around here because I do want to get back to Timothy Shea for a minute. So you're looking more at the national stuff. Is there anything interesting?
We've got early results in New Jersey. We've only got 22% of the vote in. Jackie Sherrill is leading, Mickey Sherrill is leading Jack Ciattarelli 62 to 38%, which isn't as bad as we had anticipated, given the fact that it's pretty much only Democrat counties that have reported. And again, only 22% are in. So even those Democrat counties, for example, Essex has 35% of the vote in. Hudson County, which is Newark, has only 40% in. So we're going to keep an eye on this throughout the night.
Yep, that's
no results yet from New York City also.
Oh, no new updates for that mayor's race in New York City. That's
no results in for New York yet.
Oh, none at all.
But it is worth noting that we do have a little bit of an update from New Jersey. Fox News is reporting that the gubernatorial election in New Jersey remains close, but CBS says that it's a lean towards Mikey Sherrill, the Democrat, over Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican. 26% of the vote is in New Jersey, with 61.8% in Mikey Sherrill's column and 37.7% in Republican Jack Ciattarelli's column. So Fox News says it's still close, but CBS says it leans Democrat, and it certainly looks like New Jersey is going blue, just like Virginia. Once again, no surprises there. The Democrats will no doubt do a kabuki dance and declare victory, but winning in a blue state when you're a Democrat is a mandatory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're going to be doing hooping it up and everything, because if you read anything like MSNBC or something like that, this is a mandate on Trump. If he can't pull these governors through in New Jersey and Virginia, he's all washed up, he's no good or whatever. So,
well, I'll give you a bookmark. Look for Chuck Schumer to end the shutdown either tomorrow or Thursday, because this wasn't about food stamps for illegals. It wasn't about anything they said it was about. All this was about was using it as a PowerPoint talking point against Donald Trump and the Republicans today. So by Friday, the shutdown is going to be over. That's my prediction.
So it was predominantly just to get it through this election cycle, you're saying?
Yeah. Look, Democrats can't win elections without lying, cheating, or stealing.
Right. But unfortunately, if they do those, they do win. And we've seen that. So that's the other problem.
Well, it is. But, and unfortunately here, what they're stealing is they're stealing food out of the mouths of children. They will scruple at nothing, Joe. They literally will scruple at nothing. Just ask Seth Rich.
No, I hear you. I hear you 100% there. Let's go over to Jonathan. You look like you're deep in thought. Oh, gotta hit your. You're on mute. You're on mute.
How's that?
Yep.
Off mute. I didn't realize I'd muted. So there is news here from Geauga. In our rural, conservative, Republican, right-leaning, red Geauga County, we've had an interesting turn of events. There is a, how am I supposed to say this? Formerly or perhaps currently male person who's female and wears a dress, I get lost in whatever sort of gender identity I'm supposed to apply. But Amy Hoidemaker. Amy didn't used to be this person's first name. Amy was male, might still be, I don't know. It's running in Geauga County, and that has this rural county mystified. So this person is running for Russell Township trustee, and here's where it gets sort of head scratching and very interesting as far as sort of the rumor mill that swirled around this campaign in sleepy rural conservative Geauga County. This person decided to run with another candidate who has the last name, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Ishee, which looks like is he. I don't know how to pronounce that last name, but Amy Hoidemaker in address is running in Geauga County with a running mate is he. And I don't know what to make of this, but she is winning right now pretty handily at 194, far ahead of the next vote getter, Chris Hare, at 178. I think there are 2 seats for Russell Township. And so 2 out of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people running, I think, for 2 seats. So that is, I had to just comment on that because I don't know what to make of it. It's a real head scratcher. And of course, when you're driving around in farmland and rural Amish country, and you see signs out on the road that say Hoidemaker is he, it's gotten a lot of attention. Beyond that, we've got the beginnings of some reporting here on all the bond issues. That does look like some are going to be defeated, thankfully. Let's see, registered voters. We've got about 67,000 registered, ballots cast 4,204. So we're voter turnout of 6.29. As far as what John was able to do and make a determination of how many are mail-in and early voting, I don't know how to draw that distinction. I just have total numbers as of, it was just refreshed about 5 minutes ago. So anybody that's interested in Geauga County, you can look that up. I'm just skimming through to see if there are any of these races that would really jump out at us. It's mostly school board races, some township trustees, and then I will actually, hold on a second here. Let me get down to the, these are all township board of election. So some of these levies, there are a lot of pages here. Hold on a second here. I'm getting Riverside. We actually, and to let everybody know who's following Lake County, apparently we do actually have some voters in Geauga County who vote for a few of the Lake County school districts. I think that's the geography of it. We've got some voters in Geauga that vote for Riverside schools and for Mentor schools, which were mentioned before. But we've got in the ballots, there are the levies. Let's see, Bainbridge, that's going to pass. We got 391 to 93. A little bit closer in Burton, it looks like that levy's going to pass, 54 to 23. We've got Clarendon Township failing. That is, I don't see them coming back from that one. Votes against 63 to 47 votes for the levy. Hamden Township, 173 voting in favor and 56 voting against the levy. So it looks like that one's going to pass. Another, this is the fire and EMS in Hamden. That's going to pass, 185 to 45. Wow, Hamden has been busy this year. We've got another 2.8 mil renewal and increase for fire and EMS. So they had 2 stacked. That one's also passing at 151 to 78. Appears to be leaning heavily in the direction of that levy passing. Neck and neck on Huntsburg. 24 against, 25 voting in favor. So that's a 1 vote difference on the Hamden Township 1.5 mil replacement for fire and EMS. We've got Russell Township 2.5 mil addition for streets, roads, and bridges. Pretty close, but so far leaning in favor of passing. That's 217 to 206. Just a couple more skimmed ones that I think people are paying attention to in this neck of the woods. West Geauga School District. That looks like that is failing. West Geauga School District is going for a 4.82. People have been calling it the forever levy. That was one, if it passed, I don't think it ever drops off again. And maybe Brian can comment on that and bring us kind of back around and inform us on that. But that looks like that's failing right now at 772 against to 542 for. Actually, I think it's safe to call that one. There are not enough voters out and active in Geauga County to overcome that difference. I think the West Geauga schools are going to fail. The Geauga County Park District, and this is a particular pet peeve of mine, but it does look like that's going to pass at 2,181 in favor, 1,991 against. So that is from Geauga County, what's fit to report.
Yeah, okay, very good. All right, I'm going to give a few numbers here in Cuyahoga County, particularly with the school issues, and because there's a few really big ones, and there's some good news and there's some really head scratchers. But let me just push this over here so we can see what's going on. The school district here, Garfield Heights, they have that massive levy. Just to refresh your memory, Garfield Heights, this is $337 per $100,000 house. And like I said, a $300,000 house is over $1,000 that's going to increase their taxes. Now, for Garfield Heights, right now, against the levy, it's almost 3%. Let's see, 47. Well, that's not too bad, but there's not a lot of votes, but it is definitely losing against the levy. So that is really good news. Thank God people are waking up. We go over to Parma. This is the levy that's been defeated 7 times in a row. Let's make it 8. And right now, it's getting crushed. They are not going to approve it as of right now. We'll see how many more votes come in. Richmond Heights, against the tax levy, that looks really good. That looks really nice. Shaker, now this is a head scratcher here. Shaker Heights, we were just talking about how expensive. It's like the most expensive property tax in the state of Ohio. And so they've got another big one on the ballot. This is almost 10 mils. This is basically $350 extra per $100,000 house. And this one looks like it's going to pass, at least at this stage of the game.
That's Shaker, Joe.
That is Shaker right there. That is Shaker.
I'm going to interject the cost per pupil for Shaker schools. The most recent report from the Ohio Department of Education puts them at $28,000 per pupil.
Yeah, there you go, $28,000. But look, this is insane. The people in Shaker Heights they're crazy. I'm saying they're crazy. Oh, this is just additional current expense. They just need this for operating expenses. That's all. Just current operating expenses. They need all this extra money. And people in Shaker are going for it. And the last one is South Euclid-Lyndhurst, which also at this point looks like they're going to pass that levy. That one is 8 mils, and it's a big one, $277 per $100,000 house.
So Joe,
$600-$700.
Couple of additional notes. Although there are no more results from Lake County, we can highlight both the Mentor and the Riverside School Board races, where the teams of Democrats appear to be leading pretty substantially the teams of Republicans. It's still too close to call, though, because, as we've noted, absentees and early voting tend to favor Democrat over Republican candidates. Obviously, you never like being down, but It's still too early to tell, but Team ISO is down. The Republican side is down to Cook, Hardesty, etc. And Riverside School Board, the Republican team led by Scott Fishel, is dragging behind Belinda Grassi and the Democrat team. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. If we're going to go back to Cuyahoga County for a second, I think one of the most interesting races is the open race for Cleveland Heights mayor. You'll recall that Mayor Khalil Sarin was recalled, and his seat is open now for the second mayor in Cleveland Heights history to take his place. That is a contest between Jim Petrus and Davita Russell. I've seen some Democrats try to make the case that Davita is the true Democrat and the more liberal of the two because Jim Petrus voted Republican a million years ago. I'm not sure I'd consider either of them to be Republicans. But nonetheless, Jim Petrus is leading the early vote with 55.11% to Davita Russell's 44.89% in the quest to become the second mayor in the history of Cleveland Heights. So it'll be interesting to see who becomes the controversial mayor, Khalil's successor.
Hey, John, this is Brian. I'm looking at the Board of Education Riverside Schools, and the Republican slate of, Official and Keeney and Pollock, they're in half. They are really pretty far behind on the early vote. So that's one thing to be behind, but 50% behind.
They are down, but there was just another drop of votes, and they caught up just a little bit. So their numbers improved just a little bit, which doesn't surprise me. Republicans tend to perform better on Election Day. But I would agree with you, Brian, to lose the absentees by that much is pretty remarkable, even for a Republican candidate. But it's still close enough that it could easily enough go either way. And you are seeing the very first drop of Election Day votes start to move things more in favor of the Republican candidates. Even so, if you look at Election Day votes now, the Democrats are leading in that tally as well, just by nowhere near as much as they led in the absentee and early vote.
All right, let me get to Marcel, because I know I don't want to hold you up. Let's just Marcel, you there? Let's if you have a minute, let's just wrap it up. Let's just wrap it up then. I don't want to keep you here all night or anything, but I appreciate you stepping in. So, anything you want to say to kind of just wrap up that whole event, boondoggle, election problem?
We're going to have to go to a system eventually in Ohio that is less dependent on electronic software. I think we cannot continue down a path of complication where you have to spend millions of dollars to claim you're securing them, and then at the same time everything is behind closed doors with the vendor and the vendors in the driver's seat. And I think it's going to be a balance, because it didn't take 25 years to get to this point in Ohio to build this expensive infrastructure around electronic system vote casting, counting dependencies. We're going to have to secure the voter registration databases with some blockchain. That's something that our money is secured by. I don't think that we need, for the vast majority of voters, ballot vote casting systems that involve the casting portion. I think for some time we are going to need the vote counting systems until such time where counties and people actually get involved again in their elections and step up, and we come up with a system for them to, if they're going to proceed down that path and they choose to do that through a ballot referendum at the county to hand count. But that's going to be a process that's going to involve having a Secretary of State who's going to be willing to work with counties and the electorate. Right now, we don't have that. We have a really exclusionary group who focuses on a limited set of interests to continue to status quo. And accountability is really in deficit. When I go and I see the way poll workers in some instances handle basic duties, I look at the details as a military guy. If they're not doing the basics, what other things are they overlooking? So we need a culture change. We need a shift in the type of person that we elect. So I'm in this race for Secretary of State of Ohio to introduce best practices, which I learned in the military, and to apply oversight and accountability. And I think that the people of Ohio are hungry for that. And we don't want to pay, like you're showing all these levies that are being, we don't want to pay for services that are substandard. And people expect excellence in their elections. And so this is about putting the most competent person who has character and conviction to get the job done. That's why I'm in this race.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Marcel. Really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thanks, man.
Brian,
Appreciate
just to follow up, Brian, with your point, there are now 24 of the 30 precincts in Riverside reporting, so we've got a pretty good view of where things are going, even though the night is not over yet. 6 precincts yet to count. At this point, we have the top vote getter is Belinda Grassi with 19.3% of the vote. The second vote getter is Joseph Adino. My understanding is another Democrat with 17.27%. And the third place is going to Jamali Virez, who I believe is yet another Democrat. So even with most of the precincts in, Scott Fishel, Dennis Keeney, and Josh Pollock are trailing considerably. It's not over yet, and it's still close enough that 6 precincts could change the result. But I will say, of all the boards of education, we have more precincts in Riverside than any other. And the Republican team, led by Scott Fishel, is pretty far behind at this point.
John, when you say Republican team, but everybody is running independently, right?
They are, but I will say that the 3 have kind of run as a ticket, and they were all 3 endorsed by the Lake County Republican Party. So it's fair to say that most people view both the Mentor School Board race and the Riverside School Board race as Team R versus Team D. So while you're right that technically everyone's running on their own, they essentially ran as a ticket in terms of strategy.
Okay, so if you're voting for Scott Fishel, you're going to vote for the other people because you're voting for the Republicans, basically. That's what's been happening, correct?
That's the strategy, yeah.
Yeah,
But
okay. I got what you're
Joe,
saying.
that whole notion of running that school board races are nonpartisan and all that, it's just complete and utter rubbish. For at least a decade, probably 20 plus years, only one side, only one group of people has treated it that way. The Democrat Party has wrapped their loving arms around Democrat candidates for school board. They've done endorsement cards, pumped money into the further left they can get them. You can't get far enough, too far left. They fund them, they back them, support them, they train them. There is a love affair between the Democrat Party and far left, ultra liberal school board candidates. You can't have that for 20 plus years with the other side in this supposed 2-party system that we have, ignoring it completely and not actually putting in any of the work or making any of the effort. I'm actually really proud of Lake County Republicans. It's the Lake County GOP backed and encouraged, supported, created a slate card and endorsed that group that John's referring to. Now, it's possible that switching from a long period of time, and this is not specific commentary on Lake County. I don't know actually what they did in Lake County in the last school board election cycle, but in general, it's fair to say that when Republicans finally do start paying attention and creating slate cards, there's going to be sort of a ramping up period for the population to become aware and start paying attention and get used to the notion of Republicans treating school board races the same way the Democrat Party does, and getting that slate card and looking to it for advice and guidance on who to vote for school board. It's possible that that's what's happened in Lake County. I know that they put in some significant effort into getting those 3 candidates, the quasi sort of Republican side, if we're going to run with John's point, that it ended up sort of being de facto Republicans versus Democrats. The Democrats have this whole machine and they're good at it, and they have money and they have boots on the ground. I really encourage everybody listening everywhere to work on the Republican side and build the same thing. do what Lake County is doing, do it better, do it consistently, and put the pedal to the metal. That, in my book, I've said it before and I'm going to keep saying it. Battleground 1, the primary objective of our enemies is the education system. It has been for 70 plus years. We're behind the 8 ball on this. We have to work much better, much harder at keeping that the social communist Marxist element and the race baiting, gender confusion, and sexualization of children, all that nasty stuff, we need to work really hard at getting it out because it has an objective. There is an agenda behind it, and it's aligned with the Democrat neo-communist party. We Republicans need to do a better job of countering that by running better candidates and getting behind them.
You got it.
So little side note, little election update from Cincinnati. You might recall that J.D. Vance's half-brother Corey Bowman is running for mayor of Cincinnati against Democrat Aftab Purrival. The early vote shows a massive lead for Purrival over J.D. Vance's half-brother Corey Bowman, 81.74% to 18.26%. No surprise there. Frankly, Corey did a service to the Ohio GOP running this race. Contesting deep blue cities like Cincinnati is in many respects a suicide mission, but one that we have to take because you're never going to get a city to a point where we can win if you don't run candidates. So I salute Corey Bowman for running this race, but the early vote suggests that this one was just out of reach from the beginning.
Gotcha. Hey, Kent, I saw you were scrolling through some results. Laverne Gore, Justin Bibb. Do you still have those? Can we put those up?
Yeah.
Get you on here. I know you were scrolling and looking at some results. Let's see what you got.
Yeah.
All right.
It's early.
Yeah, hold it still a minute. Take a look here. Justin Bibb. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's very early. Yeah, very early. But hopefully, I don't know if that changed. What else do you have on there? Anything?
That's about. I mean, I think everybody else is reading most of the other ones.
Yeah.
And New York City's still 13 minutes before it closes.
Oh, 13 minutes before it closes.
Yeah, it closes at 9 o'clock in the city.
Oh, yeah. So there's nothing until it closes, or
Correct.
Really?
Yeah, that's state law. That's remember 2000, how the Panhandle was still voting and they called it Florida.
So in New York, they don't dish out any numbers until.
No numbers until the polls close.
Okay. This is for the mayor, but it's basically Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo. It's really just going to be between those two as to who pulls it out. But any other interesting stuff, Timothy?
We're up to 32% of the votes in New Jersey, and it's still 58.8% for Mikey Sherrill and 40.7% for Jack Ciattarelli. It could come down to the other candidates pulling in half a percentage. So last time it was very close. We'll see this time. Ocean County has 56% in, and that's an R plus 29. Monmouth has 47% in, that's R plus 2. Warren County has 39% in, R plus 3, and Cape May has 35% in, that's R plus 1. But those are all still too early to call.
Gotcha. Brian, what's the good word here, man? Any thoughts on today's election?
I'm still trying to find some of the results from Lake County. That the early voting is kind of depressing when I take a look at the.
Well, Brian,
tax
back
levies.
to Riverside again, because for whatever reason, I think probably because of their proximity to the Lake County Board of Elections in Paynesville, we're getting the results faster in the Riverside School District than anywhere else. We're now up to 27 of 30 precincts reporting, so 90% of the votes in just about. And the top vote getter on the Republican side is Scott Fishel with 13.62%, but the bottom of the three Democrats is 14.43%. So if things don't shift, you're going to see Belinda Grassi, Joseph Fadino, and Jamili Virez take the 3 of 3 seats in Riverside schools. That's where things stand now, but there are 3 precincts left to count.
Wait a minute. What is the vote difference again for Scott? But Scott would only be, he's the only Republican you think that has a shot? Or
well, he's very close with the other Republicans, but of the 3 Republicans, he's the closest. He's got 13.62% of the vote. The next closest is Josh Pollack with 13.37%, followed by Dennis Keeney with 12.81%, and the lowest Democrat is 14.43%. So they've got to make up almost a full percent for Scott just to beat the lowest rated Democrat.
And the problem there is you get one Republican in, it's majority rules. So you'd have 2 Democrats and 1 Republican. There's probably not a whole lot he could do, but anyhow.
Well, I'm going to feel sorry for Denise Brewster. You know, she's still on the board. She's not running, this time. So if she's got to be on the board with Belinda Grassi and the 2 new Democrats, that's going to be tough sledding for her.
It's crazy the way this whole thing plays out like that.
Jonathan mentioned a Geauga County school. Was that a continuous levy, Jonathan? If it was continuous, that's forever. That never has to come back before the voters.
Well, so that's another reason to get rid of property taxes, right?
We're certainly trying, but if the people keep voting them in locally, well, they're just funding their own demise.
Well, quick update. Fox News has called the race for Cincinnati mayor for Democrat Aftab Purval. Once again, no surprise, the Democrat defeats Vice President J.D. Vance's half-brother, Corey Bowman. It is incredibly hard to go into a blue city. I think the last time a Republican pulled something like that off was when Slovenian George Voinovich became mayor of Cleveland. So it's been a while since a Republican's walked into one of the deep blue cities and taken the W.
No, I hear you. Yeah, it's interesting that they're saying that what thing. Let me just get a quick thought from you guys. I mean, how do you feel about? I know that this is mostly local issues and that, and we're going to be centering on that and everything. But how about just a little quick discussion? What do you think about the midterms coming up? I mean, do you think that? It's going to be. Do you think Trump's going to take the House? I know he'll take the Senate, but any thoughts on that? The midterms coming up, I feel like things are definitely moving in the Republican direction. It's these mayors, these governors that are winning in these blue states. That's just going to happen. I mean, it's just too many Democrats there. There's really nothing you can do. And then with the school boards, that is another issue. I was hoping to have Jeremiah Sawyer on tonight because he had a whole list of school board people that he was endorsing and conservatives, good, strong conservatives, to get them on to the school boards.
Well, Joe, I will mention this. When Virginia went Democrat 4 years ago, they said it was going to be a bellwether for the midterms. When New Jersey, when Jack Ciattarelli narrowly lost New Jersey to Phil Murphy 4 years ago, they said it was going to be bellwether for the midterms and for the presidential election. And it's not. Next year is very far away. I don't think that the midterms are going to be affected by tonight's results at all, with the exception in New Jersey of the ability of the Attorney General and the governor to play games with the elections there, and ditto in New Jersey. So to that extent, it might have an effect, But in terms of the public psyche and the mood of the country, look at what President Trump has accomplished in only 10 months. He hasn't even been in office 10 months. It's been 9 months and 2 weeks. It
I know,
seems
it's
like
amazing.
he's been president a year because
Absolutely
he hit
amazing.
the ground running on November 6th. But look at all he's done in 9 months and 2 weeks. Next November's a long time off.
Oh yeah, it is. It is a long ways off, and you're right. This guy is. We are so lucky that Trump survived that bullet. My gosh, think about that a little bit. How
Both attempts. If that sharp-eyed Secret Service officer didn't spot the barrel of a gun from 200
Right.
yards away, we would have had a second attempt, and this one probably would have been an easier target.
Oh my gosh, unreal. Hey, I got something that Chris Long sent me. I'm going to read this real quick. This is some breaking news. It's not necessarily election news, but there was the House Bill 455, if you remember, and that was to take out some of the provisions for talking about American history, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and stuff like that. And that was put forward by Gail Manning and Adam Byrd. Both of those Republicans in the State House put that in there. Gail Manning is like 100% with the teachers union, all right? Drives me nuts. You talk about a rhino. That is a rhino. Rhino. Her, Adam Byrd. But anyhow, the State House, the legislators have now taken that provision out of 455, House Bill 455. So it sounds like the reading of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and everything like that is still going to remain as part of curriculum for schools, which is great. So I got that from Chris Long. But all right, so how are we looking with these election updates? I'm going to do a quick look here in a second on see what some of these levies are up to. I hope they're being defeated, but anything new on your front there, John? I know, the problem is we just don't. You're just not going to get updates like continuously. It takes time. They come in batches. Yeah.
They tend to come in batches, and not surprisingly, precincts that are closer to your local board of elections are going to report faster because, quite literally, they're going to take the votes. They're literally going to take the sealed cases of votes and the ticker tape printouts of the totals from the voting location where you vote locally to the Board of Elections. So someone's got to physically drive those tallies from point A to point B. It's not like someone clicks a button and it gets emailed. It's actually physically carried, the boxes of votes from your polling place to the Board of Elections, and that's going to take some time. So I'm not surprised that you're seeing the results in Paynesville already reported, but the results in Willoughby Hills and Wickliffe are probably long to come. But there are no further updates in Lake County. We've got 40 of 163 precincts in. It's a little bit faster than the state average, but the night is young.
Yeah, it is. So I should pull up that Polymarket because you guys ever play around with Polymarket? It's let's take a look here. I don't think it's been updated.
Do you have a gambling problem, Joe?
I do.
Is
because-
Polymarket the platform that somebody dropped 200 G's on Andrew today?
Yeah. But he's still Andrew's
that was
at
Polymarket.
5%. Mondami is at 95%, at least in the betting markets.
Hey, what was Trump? Trump was at 99.1. Hillary? Wasn't she 99.1%? They gave the president
Is that
a
right?
point.
Is
Yeah, I
that
think
right?
they gave him 0.9% to win.
Wow.
Well, I think that statistic took into account the likelihood Hillary would try to assassinate Donald Trump.
Probably. There's a reason we call her Hillary.
But, I do want to say in all seriousness, we take for granted how indestructible, we take for granted how tough Donald J. Trump is. I mean, for that man to survive multiple assassination attempts, to get up from being shot, raise his fist to the air and say, fight, fight, fight. I mean, we all like to pretend that this is just politics as usual. This man is a hero. I mean, he is America's King Arthur. He has pulled the sword from the stone. He's the once and future president. And he is a living legend. I mean, nobody does it. Nobody survives multiple assassination attempts and just goes about business as usual and says, hey, we got a campaign to win. I mean, Donald Trump is in a completely different league, and we tend to take it for granted. I mean, honestly, I will admit part of the reason I look back and I realize why I was so shocked when Charlie Kirk passed. I thought to myself, well, you know, Trump was able to survive. Why not Charlie? And you forget just how unbelievably tiny the possibility of surviving these assassination attempts are when you've got a good shot. I mean, we take Trump for granted. He is a walking miracle.
No,
He
you're
absolutely
right.
is. He only sleeps 4 or 5 hours a night. I have that from 2 different people in the administration. He sleeps 4 or 5 hours a night. He doesn't take a salary. Every quarter, he donates his salary to a different federal agency. Remind me again who Joe Biden and Barry Soetoro donated their salary to? Oh, yeah, themselves. You know, he's building a ballroom with private money. They're excoriating him for that. This is a ballroom that they've wanted for 30, 40 years. And world leaders line up to take their picture with him like he's a rock star. I mean, it was hysterical seeing all the world leaders waiting their turn to line up to get their thumbs up photo with the president.
So
Yeah, he is a rock star, though. He is a rock star. And, you know, you bring up a good point there with that Charlie Kirk. You know, that's how an assassination attempt usually goes. You look at JFK, Charlie Kirk, it's Martin Luther King. It's devastating. It's that bullet, boom, you're dead. Except for Trump. And
Well, Trump and Reagan.
And Reagan.
And the Pope. Pope St. John Paul II.
Yeah, he got shot as well, you're right.
Yeah.
But with Trump,
So
man,
Reagan, Trump,
that bullet
and-
is whizzing by his head. It is scraping the side of his head. I mean, he is.
So
That was the
So
Holy
Pope
Ghost
John
turning
Paul
his head
II
right at the right instant. I'm convinced of it.
Oh,
Because that was 1 centimeter away from being right in his brain pan. Terrifying.
quite
So,
amazing.
Joe, we have another update from Lake County. About half the precincts are now in Mentor. And we see Councilwoman Janet Grant Dowling adding to her massive lead over Jamie Elitzer. It's very clear that she is going to win another term on Mentor Council. Ray Kirchner is also adding dramatically to his lead. It's basically 70-30 in the Kirchner-Marn race. This one is not going to be close. And finally, a race that does look close, the race between Brian Cook and Annie Payne with Barry J. Sneed at the bottom has really tightened. It's now 47% Brian Cook, 45% Annie Payne, nearly 8% Barry Sneed. This one's going to be a nail biter till the end, folks. So in Mentor Council, it's extremely close. Mentor School Board is similarly close. We're seeing the Republicans do, as I projected, much better on election day than in the early vote. So while the Democrats are still ahead, it's now very close. The top Republican is Robert Izzo with 16.25% of the vote. The bottom Democrat is Daniel Hardesty with 16.97%. So there's a very small separation of 100 votes between the two. So Bob Izzo is knocking on the door, and Linda O'Brien and Don Schutz are close behind. If the votes trend as good on election day in the rest of Mentor's precincts, the Republicans can win this one in Mentor.
And remember what I said. We've got early results from New York City. Remember what I said. You got to add the Cuomo and the Sliwa votes together. Mamdani has 51.5% with 38% or 36.1% of the expected votes in. Cuomo has 39.7%, and Sliwa's at a flat 8%. Other candidates, write-ins have 0.3. Eric Adams, who took himself off the ballot, God love him, 1,929 people still voted for him. And then we've got 2 more 0.1, so we got a 0.4, we got 0.7, and Sliwa's at 8, and Cuomo's at 39.7. So with Sliwa in the race, Cuomo's got no chance.
So it's a done deal, basically.
Pretty much.
Done deal.
I'd say New York's only chance is if Rudy Giuliani agrees to come back and just be mayor again.
New York's only chance right now is that Kathy Hochul's not going to let Mamdani do what he wants with this city budget, because a large part of the funding for the city comes from the state, and she'll just say no. It's going to be an interesting battle over the next year or so. But again, make no mistake. Remember what I said. This is all about watch all the Muslim appointees that you're going to have. It's going to be Muslims and Bernie bros. It's all New York's going to be.
Yeah, I still have problems believing that the mayor is going to have that kind of power, but we'll see, because he can't just operate. He's not the president. He's a mayor.
He's got the power of appointment. That's his greatest power. The budget power, the governor has a veto over the budget power, and the governor has a veto if the city is being mismanaged. But other than that, and these things will all end up in court. Make no mistake. He will sue Kathy Hochul if he doesn't get his way, and it's going to be up to the court.
Well, okay, that's crazy.
But watch for the
socialism, communism
mass
taking
exodus
over New York
as well.
You
watch for the mass exodus of corporate headquarters, of Wall Street firms, and of New Yorkers in general.
So if we look at CBS News, they say that the races for New York City mayor and New Jersey are leaning towards Mikey Sherrill and Zohran Mamdani. It shows Zohran with an early lead with 36% in of 51.5% to 39.7% for Andrew Cuomo. So now, even if you combine Curtis Sliwa, Eric Adams, and Andrew, they still don't equal Zohran's vote. It's a little closer in New Jersey, 56.2 to 43.3% for Mikey versus Jack Republican Citarelli. But it looks like, as we projected, that just as Virginia's gone blue, New Jersey and New York City will too. But once again, no surprise. Look for Democrats to say that this is a mandate, but that's equivalent to a Republican saying, I just won Alabama.
I'm just looking at your Lake County here for a minute. And so the Wickliffe City School District proposed income tax at the moment, it's failing, which is a good thing.
Leroy, as of now, we have nothing but the early vote in. So while it is a pretty big fail, it looks like a 9% gap. We don't have any votes from Election Day in Wickliffe yet, and that doesn't surprise me because you can't go any further west. You can't go any further away from the Lake County Board of Elections than Willoughby Hills, Wickliffe. So you're likely to see those votes come in late at night.
Oh. Well, with all of the Brian, with all of the preaching and everything about property taxes, the people are still voting for them.
Yeah, we can make them aware, but I maybe they won't change until they hit bottom, until they can no longer afford their home. Then it'll be too late.
Which is probably going to happen real soon. But
I don't know what you with the utility costs are going to go up because of the future drain on the whole electrical network, the whole web of in Ohio is going to come under attack because of the all those AI businesses that are going to come in, that are going to come in that are going to demand all of the electricity. And I understand that it's already being planned that all of these AI businesses will get first priority, and existing commercial and residential customers will have their electricity reduced by these smart meters. So may not be next month or next year, but it's coming down the road because they're fascinated with all of the AI businesses, and the demand I guess they have for electricity is unbelievable.
To run the AI. The AI is going to take over the world real soon. It's just, I know it takes up all the energy, but there's nothing, it's like beyond imagination what you can do with AI. Beyond imagination. All right, here's New York City mayor general election. These are the latest numbers.
This is Decision Desk HQ already called it, so it's over.
It's over already.
The one that I'm looking at is Pennsylvania's. That's getting close with the special court election for the Supreme Court. Still up, but
So Supreme Court of
New York
Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania Supreme Court
Yeah.
Justice, yeah.
yeah. But it looks like New Jersey, everything's been.
All right, that's New York. Yeah, let's see New Jersey. Why don't you plug in New Jersey real quick? Let's see where we're at with that.
Yeah.
So Jack Ciatrelli, he is the Republican, and they've already called it. It looks like. So the Democrat did win, right? Yeah, I was hoping for New Jersey. It was trending more and more red, but not trending enough. Not trending enough.
Hey,
So.
I know we're talking Ohio. I'm going to just give Timothy is there anything going on in New York that you're watching? Like, is there anything that you're looking at? Just curious on your end. Oh. You there? Oh, we lost him.
Is Tim frozen?
No,
I think he's frozen.
Frozen.
All right, so while Tim is frozen, I'm going to make some comments.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I don't think he's frozen, is he?
Yeah, well,
Timothy.
I mean, he's
Tim.
awfully still. He's frozen.
Yeah, he did freeze up. Ah, jeez. All right. Go ahead.
I'm going to ask our listening audience to go through a little mental exercise with me. Envision the United States of America, or any given state. Let's focus on Ohio for a moment. The first thing to know is that there are no such thing as blue states. That's fiction. Blue states do not exist. All states are red. What they are red with blue dots in them. Those blue dots are full of motivated, aggravated, attention-seeking, very disciplined agitators. Those are people who have massive amounts of political ambition. They actually treat politics like it's a religion, which allows those blue dots. In Ohio, we've got Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, Akron. That's about it. The rest of the state is all a sea of red. The red, generally speaking, we're very lazy. We sort of sit back. We don't like politics. We think other people are going to deal with it. We have been sitting on our thumbs for decades. Well, the blue dots get more and more and more ramped up and agitated. They get more and more organized, and they've tasted victory. Actually, they've tasted many victories. What we need to do, the simple equation, if we want to reclaim our constitutional republic, is to reverse that trend. We need to get more of the people in those red areas to stop thinking that we're the silent majority, somebody else is going to do it. We need to get active, organized, and motivated. And actually, the good news is it won't take nearly as much on our side because we have massive numbers. In fact, I go so far as to say that the political maps in Ohio, right now a hotly contested issue in the state of Ohio, are themselves fiction. Those are the result of many, many years of lawfare and agitation on the part of the Marxist left, pushing and pushing with everything they've got to try to make their tiny little numbers appear to be around half of Ohio. In their mind, now they're pushing to try to get a majority, a mapping of Ohio to make it look like they are on par with, or maybe even a majority over real Americans, those that don't hate the country, the people that believe that there are two genders and want things like education. The frustration that we're experiencing right now is a combination of things. Many people have just sort of washed their hands of it and given up. Many others feel motivated to fight against these things and make sure that Ohio doesn't go the way of Michigan and California and New York and New Jersey and Virginia. It's very, very possible. And you see the election that's taking place in Cincinnati. The left are aggressively pushing, even though I'm just going to attach some arbitrary numbers off the top of my head. Let's say that 14% of Ohio is liberal left, leftist, globalist, whatever you want to call them, social communist. Those 14% are so organized, so loud. They've taken over massive amounts of social media, and they give themselves an outsized voice. We need to be better about organizing ourselves and fighting back in similar fashion. Take to social media. Stop being bashful. Stop being intimidated. Stop cowering when you get called names like racist or Islamophobic or anti-LGBTQ plus or whatever. That's part of their tactic. Their tactic is to silence us and bolster their voice to make themselves appear loud and significant. But keep in mind, remember during all those riots and protests, that stupid Summer of Love where they destroyed major cities all across the U.S.? They had to fly people. They didn't have enough people locally. And locally here in Northeast Ohio, we saw it with that No Kings March. The No Kings thing ended up landing in Solon. It landed in the community of Solon, and you saw people from as far away as Cleveland Heights, Cleveland. They bust in all over the place so they could get footage of a large-sized group. It took them that much work and that much geography to get one large group together. That's an indication, and we need to recognize the strengths and weaknesses of our enemies. Those are enemies of the United States, and all these things that we're talking about, the school board races and ISO in Lake County and these commissioners races, all these things that are coming up. If we get better at doing even just a fraction of what they're doing, we can overwhelm them and reclaim our republic. Toward that end, I've mentioned it on many of these live streams that we do. I'm very involved with precinct strategy. I suggest other people follow it as well. There is an OhioPrecinctStrategy.org and a national precinctstrategy.com that was created by Dan Schultz, a very good friend of mine. Dan Schultz and I actually do national training on the platform X. We do that twice a week to ramp people up and give them the civics lessons that they missed in our lacking K through 12 education in the U.S. Ramp people up. When we get people involved and active locally where they live, we can reclaim this republic. And then in the future, when we do live streams of elections like this, I predict we can have a massively different result. Not all this, gosh, we came close and almost, and the Democrat at 80%. Look at the turnout. Look at that low turnout. Even these races where they're 80% in favor of the Democrat, I'm going to ballpark the guess, even in New York, maybe you're going to hit 20% of the vote. 20% of those eligible voters. When
So
we
Jonathan,
we
Jonathan, I want to
number
interrupt real
easily.
quick because we now have all the precincts from the Riverside Public School District, 30 of 30 precincts reporting. The top vote getter is Belinda Glavick Grassi with 4,621 votes. Second place is Joseph Adino with 4,096 votes. And third place is Jameli Vires with 3,500 votes, putting Mr. Scott Fischel in fourth place and his team out of the school board. Scott Fischel, Dennis Keeney, and Josh Pollock have lost if these results are correct. These are only unofficial results, but the difference in vote tally is high enough that I think Ohio Political News could call this one for Belinda Grassi's team over Scott Fischel's team. This is a pretty big defeat for Team Fischel.
That's too bad. That's too bad to hear that because, Scott's a really good guy, and they're good, strong conservatives, and we needed him on that school board. Now, Scott was on it. Were the other two also school board members?
Dennis Keeney was on the school board because he was appointed by Judge Mark Bartolotta. State law says that if the school board can't decide within, I think, 30 days, then the probate court judge for the county appoints. So Mr. Keeney was serving an appointed term. Pollock was just running as a challenger. So those are the three members of Team Fischel. Scott got the closest, but he placed fourth out of the candidates, and only the top three will return to school board.
So you got a very liberal school board now. Very liberal, correct?
Very.
Well, many of them, including Belinda Grassi herself, are registered as Republican and claim to be Republican. But I will say, for my part, I don't consider Belinda Grassi to be a Republican.
So she's a Republican who is running with the Democratic group?
What we found is that it's far more effective for Democrats in red counties like Lake to run as Republicans. So I'm not at all surprised that you're seeing an increasing number of rhinos and Democrats who are changing registration to be relevant. I don't think that surprises any one of us, but regardless, Scott Fischel and Dennis Keeney were incumbents. Belinda Grassi was an incumbent. It's not unreasonable to expect that incumbents would prevail. So to see Belinda come in as the top vote getter isn't surprising. To see Scott and Keeney both lose is definitely a surprising result tonight in Lake County. I can also say with 8 of 12 precincts reporting, the mayor's race in Eastlake remains razor tight. 1,275 votes to Kevin J. Kostelnik, who's taken a very small 7-vote lead over Laura DePledge with 1,268 votes. Still 1/3 of the precincts to count, though, so this one is way too close to call. In the Eastlake Council races, the top three, and remember, 3 of the 7 candidates will go on to have an at-large seat on council. The top 3 are now James Overstreet, the current mayor of Eastlake, who was running for city council with 1,042 votes. Michael Semick, current councilman at large, with 1,001 votes. And Chris Craniak has jumped into third place with 953 votes. I actually swore Chris in to her first term on council, and she has leapfrogged over Angela Schmidt, who is just 10 votes behind with 943 votes. But all this is still way too close to call, with 1/3 of the precincts in Eastlake still outstanding.
Yeah, it's really too bad about Scott Fischel losing. I know you know Scott real well, Brian. I mean, that's just
it's going to be a major change in the direction of the Riverside School Board, no question about it. Scott and his team hired Steve Thompson as the new chief financial officer of the school. I was not in favor of that, and I told him that. Steve Thompson was the superintendent of the Willoughby Eastlake Schools, and he was known as Mr. Emergency Levy. in the Willoughby East Lake School District. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens now. Will Thompson still? He's got a contract, so I would assume he would still be the CFO under the Belinda Grassi team. But as I said before, my friend Denise Brewster is still on the board, but her voice is not going to be heard with Belinda Grassi and her team. So that's a shame.
Yeah, that is a shame. Well, it's tough. It's tough. We need school board races are so important, and we need good, strong conservatives on there, not these liberal wackos, man. I was just looking at some of the school issues here in Cuyahoga County. Garfield Heights school issue. So it looks like the tax levy is slightly leading. We'll go over to Parma. Parma is definitely saying no to their property tax increase for the schools. This will be like number 7 or number 8. We'll see. Not too much difference. Shaker got some updated here, some updated numbers. It looks like Shaker is going to go for another levy, which is absolutely insane. And South Euclid looks like they're starting to vote for their tax levy as well. So I don't know. We preach about it. It just seems mind-boggling to me that people just pass these things. I was looking at some of the fire and the police and everything, and I know you can say, well, those levies are important. Yeah, but when 95, 99% of the time they pass, it's just, is it important, or is it just people not caring or not researching or not realizing that this is gonna hurt them a lot in the pocketbook, hurt us all. So I think that's one of the problems when we do election coverage on nights like tonight, where we're not talking about the presidency or Congress, and senators and things like that. We're just talking about school levies. We're talking about the school board members running for the school board. It's just, I don't know. It's a little tough sometimes for me.
More.
Yeah.
I can add a little bit more, Joe. We have 2 of 2 precincts. We have 2 of 2 precincts reporting in Leroy Township, and I'm a little bit surprised by the results here as well. We're seeing both incumbent, if I'm not mistaken, Jason Rogers and Heather Shelton are the 2 incumbent township trustees who are on the ballot, and it looks like they weren't even close. They had about 300 votes apiece, with Roy Gregg and Linda Burheen. Not familiar with either of those ladies and gentlemen, with nearly 700 and 400 votes respectively. So looks like there's going to be big changes in Leroy Township with 2 new township trustees, and they won in a landslide. So that's a pretty surprising result right there. We still don't have anything but early voting coming out of Madison Township. So right now, Thomas Sill and Joe White, Thomas Sill and Ralph Caswell are leading in the early vote over Joe White and Greg Geigrich, but with none of the 12 precincts reporting in for Madison Township, way too early to say. 15 of 15 precincts in, Chuck Hillier and Josh Pennock have defeated Beth Knezevich for like the 100th time, overwhelmingly, not even close. They've pretty much both doubled up on her, with Chuck and Josh each getting nearly 40% and Beth getting a little bit over 20%. So very strong re-election for Chuck and for Josh Pennock. We're still waiting for results from the west side of the county, and we're waiting for results in Mentor to see how that pivotal school board race and the close council race between Annie Payne and Brian Cook are going. So we're going to stay tuned until we get a few more precincts in Mentor and the west side of the county.
Yeah. Well, we were looking at some of the national news, or with New York, with Virginia, And those just went to the Democrats for those races there, which wasn't, the other side didn't put up much of a fight. Let me ask you guys a question about that Mamdani. We don't have Timothy Shea with us anymore. He had to depart. But do you think, let me ask you this, John, do you think that a mayor, and he is a self-proclaimed socialist, Marxist, communist, whatever, do you really think he's going to have that much influence in New York?
In my experience, strong mayor government like New York, he will have an incredible influence. Much like the president of the United States or governor of a state, he is going to be not only the leading voice, but the principal appointing authority. A lot of judges, a lot of department heads, they're going to go through his office. And I always say, as county commissioner, that's one of my most important responsibilities. The county doesn't spend but a fraction of what all the boards and commissions we appoint to ultimately spend in their budgets. So if I'm not picking good conservative Republicans to serve on my boards and commissions as county commissioner, it may as well be a Democrat county. And one of the big changes that I made as commissioner was to start to cycle through the appointments and replace the folks that Dan Troy and Bob Offeldish and the old school Democrats had there for 20, 30 years, and start to cycle in Republican appointees. And I took a lot of heat for that. Well, why does it have to be so partisan? I said, well, because people voted for me and they expect me to put in appointees who reflect my values and theirs. Well, I have a feeling Mamdani is going to look at it the same way. And we're going to see some very communist appointees in New York City. Might be time to move.
Ken, you got the numbers up here. Let's take a look at it. I know it's a foregone
kind of interesting
conclusion. How
Timothy was right on if you add up the top three, how close it would be. You're talking within a percent. If you add the top three, it's jumping now, but it would have been very close if Curtis dropped out. It would have been definitely.
That would have been close if all of Curtis's votes would have went to Cuomo.
Yep.
But he still would be behind by a couple percentage points, it looks like.
Yeah.
Final results are in Eastlake, folks.
Okay, what do
we
you
now
got?
have 12 of 12 precincts reporting, and the extremely close mayor's race is no longer so close. Kevin J. Kostelnik has 53.41% of the vote. And if these numbers hold and the margin's big enough that I'm confident they will, Kevin will be the next mayor of Eastlake. The top three council candidates who will join the mayor in governance are Jim Overstreet with 1,634 votes in first place. Second place, we have Michael Semick, who will return for I believe, second term on city council with 1,451 votes. And third place is Chris Craniak with 1,416 votes. I will say I think the Republican Party endorsement made a big difference in her race because she was in a real dogfight with Angela Schmidt for third place. And with the GOP endorsement, Chris has prevailed for a second term on Eastlake Council. So those are the results in the great city of Eastlake. They have a new mayor. Mr. Kostelnik will be coming into office next year.
Gotcha. Good. Yeah, thanks. I was just kind of looking at some of this stuff in Cuyahoga County. Of course, Justin Bibb is winning. He's got like 77% of the vote over Laverne Gore. Look at some of these. But you were mentioning...
Joe, I just want to say that on that Kostelnik the pledge race, Ohio Political News did live stream their event, so perhaps Ohio Political News had some impact in that.
Well, speaking of the impact of Ohio Political News, the big tax levy that everyone's been talking about, not just in Wickliffe, not just in Lake County, but really all Ohio, because school districts were looking to Wickliffe to see if a proposed income tax might be more palatable to the voters than a new property tax. But with 9 of 9 precincts in, the unofficial votes show the levy has failed. 52.98% against, 47.02% for. Definitely closer than the last property tax levy they put on the ballot, but the margin's big enough that a recount is not going to make a difference here, folks. The Wickliffe income tax levy appears to have failed by a good 5-6% of the vote. It's going to be up to the Wickliffe Public School District and their school board to finally do what the voters have been telling them for years, which is to cut spending.
Oh, that's great news, though. I'm going to get you with that right there. Wow, that's terrific. Yeah, that's wonderful.
They got the confetti. Hey, but there's a piece of the puzzle that's missing in this conversation about Wickliffe. And I've found myself in this conversation a number of times recently, specifically about Wickliffe. Wickliffe schools, it's not enough to just talk about how much money they spend. They have a job to do. The job is to educate children. Keeping in mind that Ohio has actually softened our academic proficiency standards. And Ohio got so bad that the state had to sort of hide with subterfuge. They had to hide the deplorable lack of academics. Remember how it used to be easy to understand A, B, C, D, and F? You had a grading system. Well, that was too easy to understand a lot of places, and students would get Fs, and so now it's whatever goofy terminology they use, emerging and stuff. Anyway, keeping all that in mind, the job of Wickliffe schools is to educate children. Even with softened, weak academic proficiency standards in Ohio, they're reporting about 50% proficiency among their student body. Just north of 50%, which is awful. To spend, something a little north of $30,000 per pupil. And by the way, that's not even the full balance sheet. There's also another budget through Education Service Centers, ESC. Educational Service Centers aren't part of that reporting. So figure that they spend $35,000 per pupil for maybe around 50% proficiency. That's awful. So I think, on balance, if I were a Wickliffe resident, I would be weighing how many people do I know that are either losing their homes or have lost their homes and they can't afford to live properly and feed themselves anymore, and their taxes are too high, and that's probably a majority of Wickliffe is feeling that right now. Add that to the broadening knowledge that has spread throughout the community, and we've gotten all kinds of backlash for exposing it, at $32,000 per pupil-ish, and then add in a 50% proficiency. I hope that many more school districts do the same thing. Let's pull out the back of the napkin, or if you're like me, a spreadsheet, and look up what is the school getting in revenue, how high are the taxes, how affordable or unaffordable is the community, and what is the educational result. From there, you can get into all kinds of stuff, like Wickliffe has problems similar to Mentors. Mentors had all kinds of racial antagonism. They're gotten big into race baiting and boys going into girls' bathrooms and the videos. These things don't bode well. We need safe schools focused on their one job, which is the pursuit of academic excellence and spending less money.
Yeah, Jonathan, don't be surprised if you hear Willoughby Eastlake schools and Wickliffe schools are contemplating merging.
Well, that doesn't really. It might shave a couple of bucks, but I don't see that as the answer. It's kind of like, what's a good analogy? I mean, if you have a neighborhood where everybody exceeds their budget and maxes out all their credit cards and lives beyond their means for 70 years, and everybody's broke and they can't afford to roll their credit card balances anymore, agreeing to collaborate or move in with their neighbor, it's going to help a little bit briefly, but why not go to the fundamentals? Stop all of the excess spending. $32,000. I mean, it really, a freshman, high school freshman with some mathematical competence should be able to look at the spending and know that's not right. What is it that's possible? What possibly could be costing $32,000? And I know there are people in Wycliffe that got all up in arms because there are certain things that the school spends money on that they think are sort of their sacred territory, and those are off balance sheet, and you shouldn't consider those. Frankly, I don't agree. I don't care if it's administrative staff or that it's building or expanding a building or renovating a building or adding new lighting or new technology. It's all money that's coming in that is clearly not going toward the one job. The one job they have is the pursuit of academic excellence. Don't have that.
That's one job they got, but they're
Willoughby Eastlake either.
screwing it up.
Two schools. I mean, Willoughby Eastlake, for heaven's sakes, was just a couple of years ago. They I think that they cut out all of their gifted program, all of their accelerated gifted program. I think it's gone. So they too have been whittling away, getting rid of things and eliminating the good parts in favor of wokadoodle, far left nonsense. And unfortunately, in that school district, the superintendent there who facilitated all of that, he got the fruits of all of his demolition labor. He ended up going and getting some gravy train job in Akron. So who knows? There's so many people in school making it whatever, 110 or 180 or $260,000 a year.
Yeah, Jonathan, that guy is over in Riverside now.
Oh, he moved again, huh?
Yeah, we the Scott Fishel team hired Steve Thompson to replace Gary Platko as the chief financial officer.
Oh, well,
So,
I can't say that I agree with
in,
that.
in Wycliffe, they, in my opinion, they built a school that the community could not afford. It's a brand new, school, and I guess they spare no expense. But I understand they don't even have a library in the school, so things are changing. And what I see happening is that they're bringing more services into the school that normally would be the family would be taking care of that. As far as the medical and dental services and all of that for the children. That's not the role of the school. That's the role of the family.
Well, those are all profit centers, and those are all things that I call ABE. ABE stands for anything but education. So when you have a big brand new building that they're constantly pumping millions and millions more dollars into, and it's incessant. Once you start looking at Ohio and the nation, actually, I see Ohio's schools as constantly, it's like a kid in a sandbox with a little toy
folks,
truck.
I've got some more results, and these are big. All precincts are in for Lake County. So I can now say with confidence that all new levies, the Leroy Fire Levy and the Wycliffe Income Tax Levy, have failed. So the renewals all passed, the new ones all failed. So we're seeing a trend line there in Lake. We'll see how it goes in the rest of Ohio. But in terms of Mentor City Council, my goodness, folks, these are some interesting results. You've got absolute blowouts by Janet Grant Dowling and Ray Kirchner. Janet has 65.22% of the vote. Ray Kirchner defeats Scott Marn with 68.23% of the vote. I mean, that is a more than 2-to-1 shellacking in Ray Kirchner's race. So landslides for Councilwoman Janet A. Dowling and Ray Kirchner. In the Annie Payne race, which has been too close to call all night, all precincts are in. This one is going to go to a recount, folks. Annie Payne has 5,532 votes, and Brian Cook has 5,529 votes. 3 votes
Oh, my.
separate them in the unofficial tally.
Unbelievable.
That,
Wow.
Oh my
too
God.
close to call.
Wow.
Too
wow.
close to call.
Wow.
So it is going to be a nail biter for Annie and Brian. I will fully disclose I endorsed Annie Payne. I love Annie to death. I congratulate her on being the top vote getter on election night. And now we've got to sweat it out as she tries to pull those other votes in. Now, as we go to the Mentor School Board race, Team ISO versus Cook, Haig, and Hardesky, the unofficial vote shows first place Maggie Cook, 7,876 votes. Second place, Robert Haig, 7,372 votes. Third place, Daniel Hardesty, 7,156 votes, and Bob Izzo in fourth place with 7,151 votes. Only 5 votes separate Hardesty and Izzo. So the one chance for a Republican to take a seat on Mentor School Board is Bob Izzo, hoping to catch up those 5 votes to Daniel Hardesty. But there's no question that Maggie Cook and Robert Haig have won, and that Linda O'Brien and Don Schutz are just too far behind, with 6,709 votes for Linda O'Brien and 6,702 votes for Don Schutz. They're too far behind to be part of the conversation. The only question is, can Bob Izzo find 5 votes, maybe in the tally of votes from Geauga County? So, Jonathan, can you go to Geauga and show us how Geaugans voted in the Mentor Public School District?
I'll go back to it. Last I looked, there were just like 4. It was very small numbers. Let me see what I can find.
Well, Izzo needs 5. He needs 5 votes to tie, 6 votes to win.
Yeah, you're assuming that they're not in from Geauga, but let's see. Geauga Parks, West Troy, Thompson.
John, you know what that means for Rose Iapolo, though. She'll be in the same boat as Denise Brewster at Riverside. She's not going to have any support. Rose is not going to have any support on that Mentor School Board.
Yep. So that's really unfortunate. That means that whole just spewing lies and rhetoric,
Well,
it works.
if I'm looking,
Just calling people like Annie Payne divisive, and trying to cast her as some sort of outlandish character, because she just simply didn't agree to rubber stamp everything and asked questions, and often was the only person who would actually listen to the community in Mentor schools and respond accordingly. That just being a sane, reasonable, rational person, it just really ires me. It's so frustrating that the left has that
the
tactic.
results from Geauga County, so that we can complete our tally. Looking at the
calling.
results from Geauga County and the Mentor Public Schools, we see that Bob Izzo got 7 votes and Hardesty got 3. That's a +4 for Bob Izzo, which, if that is correct, that means Izzo is behind by 1 vote.
All right, so I found it. I had to do a Control F search. I got onto a tangent there. I found 4 member of School Board of Education, Riverside Local School District. I show 11 votes from Geauga County for Scott Fischel, 13 for Belinda Grassi, 10 for Dennis Keeney, 11 for Jimmy Lee Vyers. Some of these names I don't know. 6 for...
But the bottom line is, even in Geauga, Grassi beat Fischel. Granted, 13 to 11 votes, but even in Geauga County, Belinda Grassi defeated Scott Fischel.
So one vote separates it, huh? For that
Yeah,
one
if my
candidate.
numbers are correct, Bob Izzo is behind by exactly 1 vote to Daniel Hardesty. There's no question that's going to a recount, and bear in mind that there are still probably a few absentee ballots floating out there in the ether that have to be counted. So this race
What
is
about
definitely too
provisional
close to call.
ballots, John? What about provisional ballots? There's got to be a bunch of those, right?
There could be. We don't know. They're not showing any on this spreadsheet, but that doesn't mean that there aren't provisional votes. They may just not be reporting them.
Well, the provisionals, from what I understand, is they really don't count those unless you do a recount or something. Or maybe they do eventually count them, but that's when somebody goes to the wrong voting district in the precinct or whatever and votes, or there's a bunch of different reasons why they might vote provisional. But then I guess they got to count those. So hopefully he can pull one vote. He could pull one out anywhere. Of course, the other guy could increase his lead too. But that's amazing. That's absolutely. That goes to show you how important every single vote is. Literally, every single vote.
Annie Payne's got a 3-vote lead, and Bob Izzo is down by 1 vote. So those 2 races are definitely going to a recount under state law to see whether Annie Payne or Brian Cook will be our next council at large for the city of Mentor, and whether Bob Izzo, our deputy sheriff for Lake County, or Mr. Hardesty will go on to be the next school board member for Mentor. So this is going to be a very, very tight one. But even if Bob Izzo prevails, it's fair to say this is a net flip. Or I should say it's not a net flip, but it leaves the Republicans in a 3-2 minority in Mentor, even if Izzo prevails.
Yeah, so I'll dutifully report on Mentor now as well. So for Mentor, what I'm showing in Geauga County is votes for Bob Izzo, 7. For Dan Hardesty, 3. So there's a 4-vote difference there coming from Geauga. And rounding out the votes from Geauga County, we've got Maggie Cook with 5 votes, Robert Haig with 3, Linda O'Brien with 8 votes. So in Geauga County, Linda O'Brien is the main vote getter for Mentor Schools, and Don Schultz with 4 votes.
Oh, well. Boy, it's a tough night. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of recounts. All of those are going to be recounted. It'll be interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I got to tell you a funny story about that. So when we were running for State Central, Doris Peters, and a lot of people know Doris out in Parma, well, she ran for State Central. And she tied with her opponent. They tied, and they both had well over 10,000 votes. And it was an absolute tie. Here in Cuyahoga County, the Board of Elections are like, we've never seen an exact tie with that many votes. Well, it's over 20,000 between the two of them. And so they had to flip a coin. And I gave her bad advice. What did I tell her? I told her to take heads. I said, take heads. I know it's going to win. Take heads. And the darn coin came up tails. And she still hasn't forgiven me for that. But I was so sure it was going to be heads. But can you imagine that? That's just amazing. An absolute dead tie. Every vote is important. Well, we're going to just wrap things up here pretty quick. Anything new that you have that you want to report on, John, before we wrap it up?
So I would just say what we're seeing tonight in Lake County and across Ohio is, and we'll continue to collect results going into the morning, but it appears that old levies are being renewed, but new levies are being rejected. And I would say that is a sea change in Lake County and Ohio politics, where all levies traditionally passed. And I think it is an indication that the needle is moving, as taxpayers are saying we're maxed out. They have not completely cut people off the till. That's obvious because people aren't voting no on everything. But this is the first time we're really seeing new levies be roundly rejected, whether they be for schools, for townships, whatever the case may be. And I think that's a message to elected officials that this is a new normal. At best, you have what you have. but most of the time you're going to have to do more with less. And I personally view that as a positive thing. I think Ohio needs to get leaner and meaner so that we could compete with Texas and Florida and start to grow again. And I look forward to seeing that trend continue. In terms of elections, the only big surprise is really just how poorly Republicans performed in Riverside and Mentor in the school board races. I suppose part of that goes to show that the ads that were being run nonstop on TV by PACs, probably funded by the Ohio Education Association, were effective. A lot of people wrote them off and said they didn't matter, but it looks like they had a bigger impact than most prognosticators thought they would.
I'm going to answer this one question here before we go tonight. So this is from Matches 10. And it says, what do the panel members think about making school board races partisan? Lake was a Trump plus 14 county, but liberals keep winning the school board races. I want to throw one thought in on that because I really think that it was a Trump 14, but Trump has a way of bringing the people to the polls. He's an anomaly. He's different from any other politician we've ever had. But in an off year like this, I don't think you're going to get the Trump, the MAGA people going. They're not motivated. They're not motivated enough. So I think that's part of the problem there. I think when we get to the election, with presidential election or something like that, maybe the midterms, the MAGA vote will be getting out there more, but there's just a lot of apathy. Just so much apathy when it comes to a lot of these.
I mean, Joe,
elections.
let me jump in on that. Plus 14 for Trump. People have often said that Lake County is plus 12 Republican based on that figure. But look, you have candidates that dramatically outperform and underperform that 14% number. I mean, I had a 16.5% win in my last race for commissioner in 2022 over the Democrat. But I think that's because our campaign was able to really reach out and show every Lake County and the value added we were going to deliver. We didn't just run as a Republican candidate, although I'm very sincerely proud of my party, and I've certainly never hidden it. I always believe in showing the value added. You vote for me, you're going to have lower taxes, you're going to have less spending, but you're going to get better services. We're not going to cut services, we're going to cut spending because there's a lot of waste. And the proof is in the pudding. It's exactly what I've done in my 2 terms as commissioner. So you have people who've won Lake County by 16.5%, and you have Republicans who are losing Lake County by 3 or 4%. The difference is in the campaign, in the messaging, and the work. When people say it's an R plus 5 or an R plus 12 or Trump won by 14 points, those are oversimplifications because a championship team can blow a game.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot. There's a lot to the individual we forget about too. Just because we're a plus 14 doesn't mean every candidate's going to get that 14. You're right. Got anything to?
Joe, as far as the Mentor School Board, I am not sure that the Mentor citizens realize that what they lost in Linda O'Brien. I've been involved with Linda O'Brien and her Liberty Camp for several years, and one person just loves children and is willing to do whatever it is to make sure that they get the proper education. So they, I say to the citizens of Mentor, you've lost out by not voting for Linda O'Brien. And as far as Annie Payne, I'm rooting for, like John Plechek, I am rooting for Annie Payne 100%. She is something that the new generation, a new politician, very bright young lady, and I hope she can be on city council, and she'll be a real advocate, for the people. As far as Riverside, it's going to be a new day with Belinda Grassi on there, and unfortunately, I'm not sure that public schools can be saved. I really don't. I think the liberal mindset has sort of taken over, and I feel bad that, personally speaking, I'm paying all this money, for education, and we're not getting results. So we're going to keep fighting on the property tax issue, and we're going to do our best to get this on the ballot for November 2026.
Yep.
So to sum things up, Joe, congratulations to the new mayor of Eastlake, Kevin Kostelnik. Congratulations to Bob Fiala, re-election mayor of Willoughby. Congratulations to Mayor Joe Sakis, re-election to Mayor of Wickliffe, as well as Randiger Hardstein as being elected as Wickliffe Council President to serve with him. We've got nail biters with Annie Payne up by 3 votes for Mentor City Council and Bob Izzo down by 1 vote for Mentor School Board. We wish them both well. And to all the candidates that threw their hat in the ring and won and lost tough races, we thank you for the public service of running for office. People forget what a sacrifice that it is. If you've never run for office yourself, you just don't know. But just putting your name out there, putting your ideas out for criticism, exposing your past to critique and comment, it's never been harder to do in this day and age, but that is the lifeblood of America. We cannot have a representative democracy and a constitutional republic without people who are willing to represent. And as tough as it is to put yourself out there, I salute everyone, win, lose, or draw, who is willing to take that chance and sacrifice for Lake County, for Ohio, and for these United States of America. God bless you from Ohio Political News.
Oh, fantastic. Very good. If you got one last final thought, Jonathan, we got to wrap it up here tonight. Hey, Jonathan. Yeah, we got to wrap it up. You got one final thought, maybe?
Yeah, so there was a comment about, Match 10 made a comment about making the school board races partisan. And I'm all for it, because one side has been doing it running them as partisan races for pretty much forever, since I can remember, and the other side has been ignoring it. Let's stop pretending. Let's clear a path for those of us on the right, and hopefully, I'm hoping conservatives, not more trans Democrats, because you won't end up with different results if you run trans Democrats. Let's get what I call education aware. Let's get good people on school boards, and I think that we can do a better job if we leverage the organizational structure, power, and influence, the connectivity and connections of the Republican Party. So for that, I'm all for it. Thank you for the comment, Match 10.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks a lot to everybody. It was interesting, this whole election. And coming up, we've got the primary in May, and then we'll have the midterms in next November, a year from now. So there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. All right, everybody, have a good night. Thanks again. God bless you all, and talk to you soon. Okay. Good night.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Kent.
Good night.
Good night.
All.